The off-season is over, pre-season completed, and Rovers are off to a flyer. Welcome to the Blackburn End, the new home for our podcast as we delve into all things Rovers and try to dissect the goings-on that is the drama of Ewood Park. My name's Mike, and as ever, I'm joined by Mark. Mark, it's good to be back on the pod with you. How's things?
Mike, I can't stop smiling. Rovers, 4 goals, and we are back. We are back. It's good to be back.
It does, and usually we go into the headlines for the week, but there's only one headline to discuss, and that is the rebranding of the podcast. I just thought it best to speak a bit about, why we've had this move to the new home, as a few people have asked. But as you could see on the Rovers Chat Twitter feed, Dan's decided to step down from the channel. Obviously, it was a bit unexpected, but we completely understand. To give a bit of history to Rovers Chat, Dan started it a few years ago, built up a huge fan base and gained a lot of respect, and rightfully so, around our neck of the woods, but also other fan channels, even mainstream media he got onto as well. And the amount of content he's created for us as fans has been unreal, and not only that, the quality of it. He's been all over that mainstream media and keeping this running. It was a hell of a lot of time and effort, and like he said in his statement, it was time for him to step back so he could concentrate on his own life rather than Rovers for once. And, we understood this. But we had plans across the summer for loads of content. Some of it did actually get recorded, but we decided to have a break, discuss the future, and that brings us obviously to this rebranding. The logistics have taken over the whole of Rovers Chat with all the social media and everything. It was huge. Mark and I, we had discussions with Dan, but the conclusion was that Mark and I, we just felt it was wrong to tape the channel. It was like we were stealing Dan's baby. The easiest thing to do was rebrand the podcast, and obviously here we are. We haven't fallen out with Dan or anything. We still hope he will come on and contribute. I mean, we've been chatting to him today. We're still part of the Rovers Chat family, along with all the other contributors from last year. I know Dan will listen to us, and I personally would like to thank him for bringing me onto the channel. To be able to do this is therapeutic for me. It's fast. I've had a fantastic experience doing the fan day, speaking to ex-players, and generally talking Rovers, which I don't get to do much around here because no one really cares about Rovers around here. Let's be honest. So, Mark, what's your thoughts?
I think you've summed it up really well. It's I think Dan's achievements and Dan's efforts over 7 years it's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we had an insight into it, didn't we, over the last year, but even more so over the last couple of weeks, as we've intensified setting this up. I think the effort that he's put in has been unreal. But I think the impact of what Dan's done, he probably doesn't even realise himself. I know during COVID, it played a big role in some people's lives. Obviously, a friend of mine as well, Glenn Entwistle, who passed away as part of the channel. I know during that time when Glenn passed away, it provided some comfort, and some of the footage and the clips and the funny stories and things that have come about because of it. That's down to Dan as much as anybody. So, absolutely. Thanks, Dan. And I think doing it this way, he probably doesn't feel the pressure that he's got to come back at some point, but we'd love him to come back, and we'd love him to contribute whenever he feels ready. I think we've had lots of people asking for it, and we've said, I think me and you are very similar on this, that we just love talking rubbish about Rovers. So if anybody else enjoys it as well, great. So it gives us a chance. Therapy sessions, we called them last year. Hopefully they're going to be more than that this year. But I'm looking forward to it. It's good to be back. It's good to continue it. But absolutely, I think it felt right to not take Dan's baby.
No, exactly. It's great to continue. Me and Mark, we had these discussions, and we've talked about the format of the pod. We're adding a couple of extra features in, which hopefully you guys all enjoy. So we'll get on to that. So Derby County, start of the season, winning 4-2. The first game of the season was amazing. Now, one thing we did do is we actually recorded some audio of our initial reactions. Obviously, I did the match reaction that went out. So let's play our initial voice notes to each other first.
Tell you what, Marky boy, for me, Derby were very poor. I think we need to do a bit better off set pieces. Like the look of the signings. Smodics has shown he's not a one-season wonder, so that should get us a bit more Spondoolies. All in all, decent start to the season. Top of the league. I can't believe we're going to go up as champions. That's what we all expected.
Well, I'm happy. 4-2, great win. Probably the most unexpected result I've ever had at the start of a season, because when we started the game I was nervous. I knew the new signings obviously were on the bench ready to come on. I thought Gay was going to be something, but I wasn't sure. But then to go into the game, I thought he was brilliant. The subs coming on, Hash, Chief Iman, all of them were brilliant. I thought Hayden Carter was fantastic, coming forward for that goal. It was just one of those games where I thought it was going to go against us when it was 1-1, and I thought, oh, here we go again. Rovers are going to be Rovers. And then to switch it on and get those goals and, you know, to kill the game off. It's a shame that we conceded that last one, but that's because we were spoilt with the fact that we'd gone 4-1 up. I think Derby are probably going to be the disappointed ones that they capitulated like they did. But was it deserved to win? I don't know. We'll probably talk about that. But yeah, absolutely delighted. Delighted about everything. Love Rovers. Love everything. I'm a happy chappy.
Well, you could tell I'd had a point. Mark, you've listened to your review. Do you still stand by what you were saying? Is there any extras?
Yeah, it was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, the fact that we're going up as champions. But no, I thought Derby were poor, and I think that shouldn't be forgotten. But having watched it back, watched extended highlights, I'm I haven't watched the full game. I was really impressed with the football we played. What I needed to say, I said last year, hadn't I? I didn't want to judge John Eustace until probably 10 games into this season because he had a job to do, which was keep us up. I just really, really hoped, and I think I feared that we would still go into games with a don't lose first approach. And it didn't really feel like that. So that was one thing that gave me some optimism. Scoring early always helps. But the way we switched play and the way I thought we tactically outsmarted Derby. Now, I know Paul Warne has his critics in terms of his tactical ability, but I was impressed with the way we used Pickering, the way Pickering and Hedges kept really high and wide, the way Callum Britton, if you watch the highlights, Callum Britton's influence on the game cannot be underestimated. He got 1 2 assists. And Smodic similarly when he came on in such a short period of time. But I just thought generally it was a really good, balanced team performance. And considering I think we probably still both agree that we need 2 starters at the very least, but I think you could make a case for 3 or 4, certainly in and around the match day coming on off the bench. I thought it was a fantastic start to the season, for being honest, all in all.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Callum Britton one, I said, because I did the match review, it felt like JRC on the right wing was a bit of a strange one for me. I wasn't expecting him to play there because we'd seen him at right back and centre mid, and we know he has played right wing. But I said he had a real quiet game, but that was just because Britton was constantly doing that overlap. He's obviously worked on his fitness across the summer, and it seemed to all be going through Britton, and JRC wasn't really having chance to do his thing because Britton was bombing forward. Now, there's obviously some instances where we did make mistakes at the back. One thing was obviously set pieces. Did you feel like there was improvements at the back outside of the set pieces with Pickering, Hyman, Carter and Britton? Because obviously Hyman, Carter, we praised them so much last year when they were together, and then they got split because of the injuries. Do you feel like defensively we were stronger except for the set pieces?
Yeah, just part of the set pieces for a second. I think we were definitely more solid. The way we set it was almost, obviously we played with the back 4, but we were defending with 3 really. And then Britton was going really high and wide, or Pickering was. JRC, I think it was tactical. I think JRC was coming inside on purpose. I think it's part of the tactics that them front forward interchange. I thought we looked solid, but I'll be honest, I think Lewis Travis had a big role. Tronstad didn't have to do too much, and in a way, because he had such an unnoticeable game, that probably meant that we were doing better. because he didn't need to make those last-ditch tackles. He was able to just sit there and knock the odd 5-10 yard ball, other than the one fantastic ball he played for the goal. It made his game was quite simple. It was simplified, and Travis's energy and the role Travis had, it just meant we were able to press much higher. So the energy we had in the team until about the 60th minute, so, and then it came back, helped the defence so much, because we weren't pinned in at all, were we? For the majority of the game until we lost that energy. And
it felt like a new signing, having Trav back. I mean, I'll hold my hands up last year. I was like, let's get him sold, let him get him gone. I'm willing to take the roll the dice on Jake Garrett and Tronstad being the ones to hold that position. And it feels like he's come back a new man, be it his relationship with Eustace compared to JDT, and obviously just having a bit of time away with other players as well. It just felt like he was a new man. He felt energetic. He wasn't doing the same Travis things, which frustrate me. In fact, people would seem to be doing it to him rather than anything else. But you could just tell he was talking to people. He was taking control, and he was actually being a leader. And maybe he would have given us that at the end of the season if he'd stayed, but I don't think he was mentally in the right place. And it looks like he's mentally in the right place now. I mean, you could see the passion at the end.
Yeah. I've always said, I mean, I was the same as you. I felt like it was time for him to move on, for us and him. But I've always said Lewis Travis needs to be, he thinks he's a number 6. Now, if he plays a number 6 in the way he played it the other day, that's fine. He's not a sitter for me. I don't think his awareness positionally is good enough. Where I like Lewis Travis is with the energy, when he's pressing high and when he carries, like he did it. Still hark back to that Swansea game under JDT. I think that was probably his best game in a Rovers shirt, because he was pressing so high and he's full of energy. When he's like that, he's at his best. I'm being a bit disparaging, but he's a poor man's Robbie Savage. And Robbie Savage was at his best when he was allowed to harass the back four of the opposition and get you up and get the tempo of the team going. And when Travis does that, he's an asset, and he should be in our team at that point.
Yeah, and he works quite well with Tronstad. I felt like Tronstad had quite a quiet first half. He was a little bit more involved second half. I was trying to watch Tronstad and see what his role was, and I couldn't see what his role was in the game. It seemed to be that he was kind of a go-between a lot, rather than he was letting Travis do the Travis things. And Tronstad seemed to be a go-between. Did you see anything different from Tronstad in this game to last season?
Yeah, I think last season Tronstad was having to patrol that area. I think this season he was almost, the opening game, he was almost, I think he was using his nous as a footballer. He's a very clever footballer, Tronstad, and I think what they were asking him to do was let Travis go and get involved. If he comes and gets involved in the build-up and he's playing the 1-2s with Hyam or Carter and Britton, fine. But what Tronstad was doing, he was almost reacting to what everybody else in our team was doing and covering the gaps. So if Travis was here, I need to go here. If Pickering's tucking in, I need to be here. When Pickering was high and left, he dropped into that almost left-back position. He was just filling in where was needed, and that was kind of his role, was to go unnoticed but do all that. A lot of donkey work, but it's bloody important is that work, because if he doesn't do that right, that's when the press goes wrong and there's a massive gap. So it was a really important role he played whilst not being in the limelight at all. It was a proper supporting cast.
Yeah, it's that unsung hero, really doing the dirty work, like you said, role. And yeah, I mean, first half I hardly saw him, but second half you could see him making those moves. Another player I wanted to talk about is someone that we want him to get a new deal, is Tyrese Dolan. Taking that Schmodix role. Schmodix we'll get to, but obviously dropped to the bench for obvious reasons. Dolan went into that position. He scored a very Schmodix goal. He seemed to be coming out to the wings a little bit, but he had quite a lot of energy in that first half, and even second half before going off, you could tell he had something. Do you feel like Dolan could take that number 10 shirt, that number 10 role, and run with it this year, and not quite get the goals that Schmodix did, but really contribute there does it matter about him having a contract or not? What would you be playing in there week in, week out?
I mean, if we take his contract situation, he's not going to go on a free. Even if he leaves at the end of the season, we will get some level of compensation. So there's a little bit of a comfort blanket. We're not in the situation we would have been in with Gallagher, or like we were in with Brereton Diaz and the others. But he does need resolving. Now, it could be a fire for him. He obviously, the deal's been on the table for a long time. You would imagine that the figures are an improvement on what he's been on. But in terms of his performances, if he wants to get to the level that he probably thinks he should be at, or he can be at, he's got to, it's consistency is the word that he needs. So he's a goal threat. He's good when he's harassing. I like him sometimes on the left-hand side, but then there's games where he disappears. I like him up front occasionally, and then there's times where he looks way out his depth. So I think the number 10 role could be that happy medium. And the way that Eustace was playing, he was really having that front four interchanging. And actually, when I've watched it back, Dolan moving out onto that left-hand side, it was a clever performance from Dolan. There was times where I thought watching it live that he disappeared out of the game for a bit. But actually, if you watch him, he was picking up some quite unselfish positions, particularly when Smodics came on the pitch. He was allowing Smodics to get centrally and in the goal areas by dragging players out. It was very unselfish, actually, from him. And quite an intelligent performance from him, which is probably not something I've seen from him before. So I just think consistency is the key with Tyrese Dolan. There's been games before where he's looked almost a world beater in the Championship, and there's been games where he's done absolutely nothing. So if he can go and get 10, 15 goals this season, then, absolutely.
It's a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he's playing that number 10, though, I was just going to say, if he's playing that number 10 role, though, Mike, for the majority of the season, he has to get 10 to 15 goals, doesn't he? Has to. Yeah,
he needs to have the goal involvement, doesn't he? He needs to be creating something and doing something. Now we know he's got that quickness of feet. He hasn't got exactly a lot of pace necessarily, but he's got that quickness. And if he could channel it and stop doing the silly dances, and I didn't see that this game, It did seem to be a little bit more simplified. Now, last season we were crying out, just saying, look, just stop the silly dancing. Simplify your game, do the right things, do the simple things, and you will be better. And playing in that number 10 role where he's got a little bit more space, he can't dribble it out of play. He did seem to be a lot better. He had Hedges on the left, and like we said, JRC on the right for them outlets, and obviously Gay up top. So let's talk about Gay. So I saw him before the game, smiling, laughing. He actually put his arms around Dolan and stuff. He just seems to be an infectious character that's got this determination and ambition. Yeah. And I tweeted out saying he played as I wanted Sam Gallagher to play. He has that size. He was getting around. He was finding space in the channels. He made some lovely runs. There was one shot he made which went straight across the goal. I think it looked pretty bad at some angles that he'd missed quite an easy chance, but actually it was a tight angle. Keeper covered it off and it went across the face. There was one in the second half he may have done better with, but he did get a little shove off a defender. But generally, I was really happy with his movement. I was happy with how he put himself about. There was people saying he needed to be more physical. I thought he had the balance quite right. Is he someone that you looked at the end and came away thinking, do you know what, we found our guy?
I hope so. I do. I think I messaged you very early on and said I'd forgotten what a striker who can hold a ball up looked like. And the thing is, the last time we had a striker like that, the first one that comes to mind was Chris Brown. But that's all Chris Brown could do. Whereas Gay, he had power. He had willingness to run in behind. He had a willingness to run the channels. He's got a bit of pace about him. My worry with him was... But he was absolutely exhausted at this point, wasn't he? That finish was poor, the second one. Mm-hmm. The first one looked poor from where we were. I've seen it back. Absolutely fine. No issues with that. The second one looked poor. And all the reports about him are that finishing-wise, he's got to work on it. But in the air, he doesn't get beaten. There's no coincidence when he went off the pitch, we conceded 2 goals from set pieces. No coincidence at all. We've half jokingly said about Sam Gallagher that his best attribute that he brought to us was from defending set pieces. So the fact that we're not losing that is a massive bonus. And he should provide a threat in their box. My one disappointment with him, it wasn't really his fault, was the fact that we didn't put one cross in that I can remember while he was on the pitch. And I think
we did. It just wasn't to him.
But similar to the balls that we used to put in for Gisted, where it doesn't need to be a pinpoint Beckham-esque ball with somebody like Gay. He's so big and strong and good in the air. These just need to be floated into areas, and he's going to attack them. And he might attack them 4 times a game and take the keeper out, and the keeper will get a foul 3 times, but he might not once. And I think that's, I don't want us to lump it long, but I think there's a time and a place for this, and it's an angle that we've not had before. But I thought his touch was very good, his willingness to run in behind. I was impressed with him. I thought it was really encouraging, considering he's met his teammates, 10 days ago? He's played 60 minutes. He's barely had a pre-season with us, certainly. I thought it was really promising. It was.
It was that infectious character that he's obviously got. It's what we've been missing. I think a lot of the players last year, they were all down or inside themselves. It was like us against them, and we got dragged into that relegation battle. And I think to bring in characters like this lad who, straight off the bat, when he's got his shirt and he's taking photos of that shirt, he's smiling, and that's all we've seen. That's the kind of character you want. And he just looks like he's got this confidence about him. Now, one player that didn't have that last season was Ainsley Pears. And I saw quite a lot on Twitter about Pears before the game. Obviously, everyone knows I'm not a massive fan. I've tried to defend him the best I can and struggled. But I have to say, he had a solid game. I thought he came for a couple of crosses. Yes, he had to double catch a couple, but he still got them. Derby, a very difficult side to defend crosses against as a goalkeeper. The goals weren't his fault. Someone said, the bullet header above his head, he should have saved. Okay, well, I don't think you've ever dealt with a point-blank bullet header like that. But the save direct from the corner, that is a very difficult adjustment of your feet and your arms to make that kind of save, and then to have the awareness to then make yourself spread a little bit more point-blank to make that second save. I thought he did all right. I mean, he's not the goalkeeper we need, but I thought he did all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we're both in the same boat with Ainsley Pears. I think if we are going to have a decent season, I think he'll be the difference between us 4 or 5 places in where we finish if we go and replace him with a better keeper. But he did often.
Yeah. And let's talk about the subs. So John Eustace, absolute masterclass. We're 1-0 up. We make the subs. We go to 1-1. We think Rovers are going to do Rovers things. But the subs then come into their own. In fact, Rich Sharp put some stuff out. He said, we've only had 33 goals from subs since promotion from League One. Given the fact that 5 subs have been introduced in that time, I'd probably wager it's never happened before. And we believe it's the first time we've done a triple sub and all have scored. So there we go. Schmodix, Ohashi. Right, exactly, yeah. So Schmodix, Ohashi and Vyman all come on, all get their goals. Schmodix gets his assist as well. Talk to me about Ohashi.
I mean, people say don't fall in love with a loan signing. You shouldn't fall in love with somebody who's just arrived at the club, should you? But I think we all have. Yuki Ohashi.
I remember doing it with Grabby, and that went wrong.
Yeah, but Grabby also didn't score on his debut, did he? But I did the same, Mike. We all did. But Yuki Ohashi, one way or another, is going to be a Rovers legend, whether it's positive or negative. But I'll be honest, the snippets I've seen, I think he could be a really shrewd signing.
You can't teach what he did for that goal.
No.
So the technique you can teach and everything, but the instinct, the speed of thought, all of that, to the calmness, the confidence on your debut, you've come to a foreign country, like you said about Gay, not knowing these guys, to only have a few minutes on the pitch and to dink the goalkeeper like that. you've got to have something about you. He's off to the races now. I tweeted out saying, my bold prediction is Gay and Ohashi are going to go down as cult heroes for Rovers. When Gay played like he did and Ohashi scored the goal he did, I was quite chuffed with that tweet because I was like, do you know what? Yeah, because just that dink, it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and yeah,
it was a class finish, but it showed us more than just the goal. It showed us the confidence, the technique. He's halfway through the season, isn't he? So he scored 11 in 22 league games, I think. So what Rovers fans do need to be careful of is if he falls off the edge of a cliff December-ish, is not just forget the beginning of the season he's had and then say, oh, it's Christmas, it's wet, it's cold. He's going to hit a brick wall at some point. He's going to almost need his own winter break, if we're being honest, because the Championship's relentless and he's halfway through a season already. But whilst that's a negative at some point, let's use it right now because he's clearly fit and raring to go and banging form. So, yeah.
He's obviously not need. Well, exactly. And he's obviously not needed that pre-season from a fitness point of view, but the leagues are very different between Japanese and obviously the EFL. But he took some physical licks, he took some tackles and he got straight back up and carried on. Someone gave him a mouthful when he went down, but, he did his job. And Andy Vyman, let's talk about his goal. So was it his second touch, I believe?
I think so.
I think the first touch was his throw-in, which he literally came and took straight away to throw back to them. But yeah, it was effectively his first meaningful touch. But there was a certain central defender that created that. Talk me through, because you sent me a voice note. I was going to put it on here, but you were very happy about Hayden Carter. So talk me through that goal.
Well, listen, just on Andy Vyman first. Shrewd signing. We've missed that experience in that final third. He picks up good positions. I'm not saying he's going to play every game and 46 games a season, but he's just got that now, hasn't he? He's probably the only player. Forget Ohashi. We don't know yet what him and Gay are properly going to bring. But I would say if you looked at our squad last year, when Smodics wasn't playing, nobody's got that intelligence of our forward line to drop when everyone else is chasing to the near post. Or, I'm not going to have a bash at Gallagher, but I am. In Gallagher's case, he's not even near the edge of the box. But Vyman's got that now to just hold his run, or just he knows where to be. He's just got that experience. It's going to be a really shrewd signing that. But Hayden Carter, I love Hayden Carter. I think he's got the potential to be a fantastic footballer. I think he's going to be in the Premier League in the next 12 months or so. Sometimes I think he's wasted at centre-half. I think right centre-half in a team that almost played like Sheffield United did that time, where they're bombing forward, would be ideal. He could play right back. He's so good going forward. I always remember the game against Forest, left-hand side, with his left foot, he crossed one in. He's just got so much ability, but when he did that, he charged forward, and you can imagine the adrenaline's going. He's dived into a tackle. He's won the ball. He's running into the box. The coolness to Cruyff turn in the box, send two Derby players who are still sliding somewhere near the Blackburn end, and then dink it. He just stopped himself, calmed himself down, and dinked it to find Vyman unmarked, land it straight on his head with his wrong foot. I think I said something along the lines of, I love you, Hayden Carter. You're the best centre-half I've ever seen in my life. But he's not the best centre-half I've ever seen in my life. But I tell you what, I do love him. It
was great. I was singing the praises of the fact that Hyman Carter are finally back together. And then he goes and does that. And I'm just like, is this now something you can build on? Is this now like this striding forward? Is this an extra part of your game that we can hope for going forward? It was beautiful, and we know that Carter's future is going to be elsewhere. Let's be realistic. But like you said about Schmodics, adding a few extra, dots on, a few extra notes onto his value. We've just added a few notes onto Carter's. So let's talk about Schmodics. He does his customary thing. He comes on, gets the goal, gets an assist. Is it his final swan song for us?
My worry, Mike, is that this is going to rumble on right until the end of the transfer window. And then we can either... You would imagine that with the business at the minute, if you look that Gallagher's gone out and, others, it's not taking a rocket scientist to work out that money's been used to them by bringing Gay in or Hashi. So you would imagine that we are waiting on the 3 or 4 that Eustace keeps talking about for Smodics to go. And as much as I'd love him to stay, if we're ever going to sell him, we need to sell him now. And I think it'll be his final swan song. I just hope it doesn't drag out much longer.
Yeah. I mean, all I kept thinking to myself after that game was, if we keep him, are we going to be making playoffs? Are we going to be making automatic promotion? Yeah. Probably not. So it's either we get rid of him, we cash him, we all move on with life, and we're not getting a Brereton Diaz situation where he goes for nothing and we've lost. I think we just cash in now on that. I think it was a nice little swan song. I think it was quite nice to see Dolan playing that number 10 role and actually being active in that number 10 role. So it was great to see him get a goal, great to see him get an assist. I probably think that's going to be done now. But we'll get on to the Smodics thing when we get to the transfer bit. Sorry, I'm just reading something here that someone put. It's quite funny. I'm going to get to that. So let's get to the fan reactions. So another thing we're going to do is on the Twitter, we're going to start reading out some of the fan reactions that people had after the game. So the first one that I'm going to read is Tim D.O. He said, wow, that was unexpected. Pros, the new signings, they all offered something different. We looked good except from corners. The worry was that we looked tired after an hour, but the subs injected energy back into the team. Over the season, we need 3 to 4 more first team players. Exactly what you said. Ollie said, shout out to Trav, who I thought was exceptional. Gay looks strong, quick and dynamic and seems to offer everything that we hoped Gally would, would provide, but didn't. Class finish from Hashi, but the highlight was centre-back Carter, sending 2 for a taxi, and Sammy, 30 mins, 1 goal and assist. And the next one, which made me laugh, was Luke Core. Might sound crazy, but I think these 3 points could be massive come May. Feels good to see our 4 different scorers, and it couldn't have been, and it could have been more. They think there's still big improvements to be made, especially defensively, but delighted. I was just reading that, I was like, it's the first game of the season, and we're already talking about this effectively being a 6-pointer. So
he's got it. Luke's clearly got PTSD from last season, hasn't he? That's what's.
I think so. Luke, we feel we hopefully that isn't the case. And Dan, Mr. Rovers Chat himself, Rovers Chat royalty, said, I felt Rovers got off to a much-needed winning start. Gay impressed me massively with his runs into the channels, and I felt we looked a more balanced side. We have to be wary because we did play a Derby side that will struggle, but we can't argue with a positive start. So that was the fan reactions. Put some comments down below if you've got any reactions to the game you want to add. But obviously, we're going to start now previewing the games next week. So there's 2 that are going to be happening between now and the next pod. So the first one is Tuesday, Stockport County away in the EFL Cup. Mark, you've done some work with the Stockport County fans. What do you have to say on this fixture?
Well, really interestingly, Stockport are having a shocker at the minute. Lewis Travis didn't help that situation, but they've got 9 injuries, I think, first teamers. So what they've said is they are going to play the kids. So they just said they cannot risk any more injuries. So on that basis, I think we can possibly rotate a bit more than we would have done. I think people like Sigurdsson are going to come into their own in this game. The weather's nice, the pitch is nice. We know Sigurdsson's got the quality, it's the consistency, and whether he does enough in games is a question mark. But I think we'll have too much quality for Stockport. I think it'll be a 3-1 win for Rovers. I'm going for.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a hell of a lot of rotation. I don't really like talking about early round League Cup games because there's so much bad. I mean, look at Harrogate last year. We put out so many young players, and then we go and win 8-0. It's not going to be that kind of result because Stockport are much better than Harrogate. But it's like, you just don't know what's going to happen in these games. I'd like to just see some of the squad players play, like you said.
Yeah.
I'd probably stick with Pears in goal rather than Hilton. If we had a proper number 2 or hopefully a new number 1, I would have said play them, but I'd stick with Pears in goal. Generally, I'd just have full rotation ready for the Norwich game away. Obviously, playing Norwich away, it's not been a terrible hunting ground for us. I don't want to jinx it. But they have just lost to Oxford, which was a bit of a shock on the opening day. So the Norwich game away on Saturday, is it if we've rested the players against Stockport, or I think we're going to go for a very similar starting lineup. I think we can get something here. What about you?
Yeah, Norwich are not in great shape at the moment either. They've obviously got a new manager, but they've got a similar situation to us with Smodics, haven't they? Except, where Smodics said, "Yeah, give me 20 minutes." He dropped out late in the day. Losing to Oxford, though, does that give him a kick up the rear? Possibly. I'm going. I've never been to Carrow Road before, and I'm going to the Stockport game as well. So, hopefully, from my point of view, it'll be a bloody long way back. It will be a long way back to Blackburn if we are, as the song goes, awful. But yes, I think we'll get something. I think that the way that we're playing at the moment, added to the fact that people on Tuesday will get some minutes and get them up to speed a bit more, I'd take a draw. But I think we can get something. There's no reason why not. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those games again where you hope that we're just going to go and play to our strengths like we did against Derby. I really can't see us playing any different to what we did against Derby, but Norwich are a different side to Derby. They are better. I just hope we do get something. But we have got a new feature.
They've lost their better players as well. I was just going to say they've lost their better players at the minute, and they've not replaced them yet. So they're not. It's a good time to play them, probably. Similar to how it was last season.
Yeah, definitely. If we can build on something that we do Tuesday as well as what we've just done, it will be fantastic. But we do have a new feature. We are going to be quizzing the fans, but I'm going to leave it to Mark to explain the new format of how we quiz.
Yeah, so everyone asked us to keep the quizzes in, but I'll be honest, it's a little bit different to the quiz when it was me and Mike. And also, we'd run out of questions. We couldn't think of anyone. But no, we like doing some involvement, a bit of fan involvement. So what we decided to do is a little bit of a riddle, a little bit of a countdown conundrum type thing, where we'll give myself and Mike will give sort of a bit of an idea, a bit of a clue towards who the retro rover is towards the end, and then we'll announce it while we're about the retro rover. So this week, obviously, I'm not going to tell you who it is yet, but I have a little bit of a riddle for you. Okay, so there were two of me at the same time, but now there's only one. I could only stay for a little while, as I was too much of a devil. So there were two of me at the same time, but now there's only one. I could only stay for a little while, as I was too much of a devil. So at the end, I'll explain what those little clues were, who it is, and we'll have a chat about the player in question.
And put down a comment below if you've got it beforehand, so then we can see who's nice and smug and work that one out. So we'll get on to the topics now. So obviously, Mark, you're king of the forum. Do you have anything from the last forum to share for us that was interesting? Obviously, we've got the Venky situation. The Wagger interview came out. So starting with the forum, what's been said?
Yeah, I don't think king of the forum is my official title, Mike, but yeah. very similar to the Steve Waggett interview, if I'm being honest. I think the forum and any group that meets with the club gets some stick sometimes. Obviously, minutes, maybe we should reword them to notes, meeting notes, because they can't capture every single thing. But yet, of course, we let the club know our views on the lack of reinvestment, on our concern. I personally talked about how concerned I am that I think we've got worse every one of the last 4 transfer windows. And I think we still have up to now. We don't know about Gay. We don't know about Ohashi. We certainly didn't then before we'd seen them play. And that I'm concerned that that's not a way to run a progressive football club. What is the future of the club? If the idea surely is to get the Adam Wharton money or similar players, maybe not reinvest all of it in the playing, but Greg Broughton summed it up perfectly for me. Reinvest it in infrastructure, academy, hot prospects for the academy or the under-21s, and then the first team. It was clear that, and he's come out and said it since, Steve Waggett, that the issue with Venkins is not that they can't send money over. He didn't say this quite like this, but basically they don't want to do because it's costing them double right now. So if they can, if we can still run on if you have to, then we'll give you the money. He said that they've never refused funds, that they've asked for the money and they've got it. He'd always like more. But right now, the minutes are out there, but right now, Venkis, it's costing them double. They're having to put if they send 10 million over to fund the club, they've to send 10 million to India. Now, hopefully, I think it's towards the end of this month, the court case, and we believe that is to get a resolution. I think it is a final court case as well, to get a resolution on this matter, that hopefully they can start to send funds as they did previously. At that point, for me, there is a line in the sand. Because if Venkis, they're definitely not taking money out into their own pockets. Let's just get that clear. The club costs around 22 million a year to run. And what we've basically done is use the sales to put the majority of that bill. Now, Venkis still sent 14 million, I think it was, over last year. So they're still sending money over and they're still funding the club. But for me, if they are not going to then reinvest that, I'm not saying all in transfer fees, because that then means, the wages go up and things like that. But they've got to reinvest it in the playing squad. You've got to take Adam Wharton's money on one player. Like we talked about with Smodics. If we get 9 million for Smodics, I know we don't get it all up front, but we don't spend it all up front either. The point of selling a big player is to then reinvest it and make you a better team. You lose a better player, but you become a better team. That's the idea, and that's how you grow as a club. And then you keep doing that. So you sell Carter then for 10 million. And you reinvest it in 2 or 3 and you become a better team, is the idea. That's how you progress as a football club. If they're not doing that and they don't then put the money available again, then I see very little upside to Venkis being our owners. I could be the owner of Blackburn Rovers and sell Sammy Smodics and Hayden Carter and not put any of my own money in for the next 12 months. But I think
that's where all the fans' frustrations lie, because you just wonder what they're getting out of it now. Now, we've never been the ones to start a massive debate about the Venky situation. I think when you put your business head on, you understand certain aspects of the decisions they make. But I think we're all just bored of it now. We all want to move on. We all want to be, like you said, the model of, we've all played Football Manager and FIFA and stuff. You sell players, your budget goes up, you spend that on other players, and it's just the way that football's always been. And the fact that it's not being that way for us now is extremely frustrating, because it feels like we're getting weaker and it feels like we're constantly having to pull rabbits out of hats with signings. We hopefully Ohashi and Gay work out from a strike point of view, but you look at all the other signings as well. It's not like we have all these massively exciting signings the way you look at them and you just go, I'm really excited about that guy. I'm really excited about that guy. Everything seems like a risk. And that's why we're worried as fans. And I just want this situation to be resolved now, so then we can all move on and we can start we can start getting excited again. It just feels like there's always a drama, there's always a cloud. And like you said, if this is a final court case and we're going to get the answer, that's great. But then after that, Venky's really need to prove what their intent is with this club.
Yeah, because there's been talk before that Venky's will put money in if they were allowed, but FFP doesn't allow it and things like that. Well, we've now got room in FFP. And that's the other thing for me. This is a big opportunity that we aren't going to get in. The FFP is about a rolling 3-year program, is it? That you're allowed to lose 39 million, I think. Well, that window is ticking. It's up and running, that clock. It started from Adam Wharton's money. So Raya's money, Kaminsky's money. So if we don't use it, then you're going to lose it. Literally, that is how it will work. That win, because we'll carry on losing money. So, I mean, what people do need to remember is under John Williams, under the Jack Walker Trust, we still ran this way as a football club. We'd still sell David Bentley for 17 million, and we go and sign. We saw Damien Duff, didn't we, for 17 million, and we went and bought David Thompson, Stephen Reed, Brett Emerton. That's how we've always run as a football club, really, bar Jack Walker's period. And even Jack Walker's money wouldn't be able to do that now. FFP wouldn't allow us to do it. But we've got to reinvest some of it. Maybe not all of it, but we have to reinvest some of it, and a significant amount. Because if otherwise, what's the point in growing your own Adam Wharton, selling them for 20 million if you're just going to keep getting worse? Because ultimately, as a football fan, you have to have hope and you have to have belief. And you go into a season, don't you, full of hope. And you never know, this could be our year. I didn't do that this time. And that's sad. I bought a season ticket out of habit, probably. And you should be going into games going, oh, yeah, we can win. And you do convince yourself, but you should be going into seasons going, I can see a way we can get the top 6 here. I can't right now. And you've got to give people that hope. And I just hope that Venky's are able to and feel willing and want to send the money over. Otherwise, like I said, I see very little upsides to them then owning the club.
Yeah, and it's a sad situation. I mean, being a fan is not cheap. Tickets are going up, going to games, is expensive with fuel. I mean, even the shirts. I mean, I know that you've bought the shirts. I bought the shirts for my family. I mean, it cost me £270 to kit me and my family out with shirts this year. It's not cheap. And when we're investing our money into supporting this club, we want to see something back. I've always said, like, I will never forgive the Venkys for what they did to us at the start with the bad decisions they made. We can get into that conversation another day. But I do appreciate the fact that they spend a hell of a lot of money to keep the lights on now. And this situation with the Indian government is something that was, whether it was foreseen, unforeseen, whatever, it's definitely unforeseen to us as fans.
Mm-hmm.
I now, like I said, and like you're saying, if they can finish this court case and then come out and say, right, that's done. We are now going to support Gested. We are going to support Eustace. We are going to give this club what they need. Any money that is made on a player will remain in the transfer budget. So any money that has come from Wharton, any money that's come from Raya, like, I understand that not all of it right now can be available to us, plus the way that deals are structured. But generally going forward, I want to know that if Schmodix is sold for 8-10 million, that we have 8 to 10 million to spend. Like you say, FFP sorted. This is the golden era for FFP for Blackburn Rovers. We need to make sure that is not wasted, just as you said. I think as fans now, if they want any chance of forgiveness, they either need to sell and we just all move on with life, or they just say, right, that is it. Whatever FFP is, we are going to give us the limit every single year to do that, to give us the best chance to make up for the errors that we've previously done.
It's our best chance of progressing to, I mean, we're talking peanuts here compared to the teams that are coming down with parachute payments.
100%. Yeah,
it gives us the best chance of progressing as a club to becoming near to the top 6. Exactly like Coventry did. They sold Gyökeres, they sold Harmer, and they've become a better team, some would say, because they've reinvested it wisely. Doesn't have to all be on transfer fees. We know the free market out there is massive now. But that might mean that you're going and paying, I don't know, whoever, who's a 28-year-old and he's on a free, and rather than a transfer fee, but you're giving him £1 million to say, however the club wants to reinvest it in, but it has to be making the team or the academy in some sense. I get that side of it, but it has to make the team better. I think one other thing that they do need to do, and again, this is stuff that's shared at the forum, our opinions are always shared, is sometimes, though, it's difficult because Steve Waggett ultimately as an employer, and he's not in control of everything. But to me, Venky's have to speak more or allow Steve Waggett to speak more, because managed bad news is better than the void that we have. And that just fuels, particularly because of everything that's gone on in the past since Venky's have owned the club. People are immediate. The moment there's a silence or there's something that's could be misconstrued or just we don't know what's going on, rumours start. Oh, there must be a conspiracy. There must be this. Sometimes it will be true. Sometimes it won't. But just come out and clear. Even if they'd have come out and said, "Do you know what? There is a court case injunction and it's terrible news," and we'd be going, "Oh my God!" At least from the club what's going on. It shouldn't be coming out in leaks here, there, and everywhere, and then the club confirm or deny eventually. That shouldn't be happening.
100%, and it kind of brings us on to our next topic. We're talking about financials, and that's obviously our transfer business that we've done over the last couple of weeks. It should have been a few weeks, but I went on holiday and suddenly my phone's blowing up every 2 minutes with Rovers announcing a new player and players leaving. So Let's talk about the players that have gone. Now, obviously, top of that list is my man, Sam Gallagher. It wasn't unexpected. I don't think it was unexpected for me. I think it's meant to have gone for about 1.5 million, something like that, which I think, considering, is quite a good fee. Do you think it was the right time? I know I do.
Yeah, I think I can't remember whether it was on Twitter or on just in our conversations, but I think you put it perfectly, Matt, when you said we knew what Sam Gallagher was doing at the football club, and over a number of managers, he's not given what he's capable of, or maybe this is all he's capable of. I don't know. For me, he plays half the games of a season generally, and a quarter of them he plays at his potential or what we think he should be doing. So it was time we knew what he was going to do this season, and it wasn't enough. So it was time to twist and gamble for me. And if Gay's a gamble and he doesn't come off, fine. But Sam Gallagher got 3 goals last season. I bet Gay gets more than that.
I completely agree. So I tweeted out saying, I think Sam needed to move just as much as Rovers needed to move on from him. I wasn't a fan because he was too soft and didn't use his physical attributes enough. We needed to twist rather than stick in the centre-forward department, and I'm happy with the gamble. We need goals, and that's not him. So that's what I tweeted out. And it's a video that we wanted to do over the summer and we'll probably do over the next couple of weeks, but I'd actually crunched the numbers of all strikers that Rovers had since the year 2000, because I'm an absolute nerd and I had too much time on my hands. Now, they had to play more than 10 games for us. Now, what's interesting is there's 40 strikers on this list that we've had that have played over 10 games, and some of the names that have a better minutes per goal ratio, I'm going to go with, so Grabby was one, Jason Roberts, Dominic Samuel, Simeon Jackson, David Goodwillie, and I'm going up the list here to some of the best. So obviously some of the best are, the likes of, I don't want to give away who's the best because I think you'd be quite shocked at who's the best. But Joe Nuttall has a better rate. Now, obviously, Joe Nuttall didn't exactly play in the greatest of leagues for us. But when you've got names like Chef Kikuchi, David Goodwillie, Simeon Jackson, Dominic Samuel, Grabby, Jason Roberts getting a better goal return per minute than you, and I really got frustrated with a lot of those strikers. I can understand why I got so frustrated with Sam Gallagher. And now some of the worst ones like Eggy Lawson, Stad, Franny Jeffers, Ashley Ward, we have had some worse. But the stats weren't good for him, were they, over his career? So would you say he's had a successful career or not?
No, I don't think he's reached his potential. I mean, the fact that his best scoring season was when he was on loan, and it's not just about, goals. Emil Heskey's probably the main example I always think of as that, the contribution. And if the team are better, and there was always that argument, wasn't there, that, we get more points when Sam Gallagher's than the team.
Well, he did have 74 goal involvements, which is goals and assists, which is actually one of the higher ones. But that was mainly because he got 26 assists, which is actually more assists than any other striker since 2000. But, and I'm going to say a big but here, he did play on the wing as well.
Yeah.
And we wanted him to score more goals. So 74 goal involvements, it's not terrible, but it's not what we wanted. We wanted him to score goals. We had people giving the assists. And it's still 234 games, which is more. That is more games than any other striker on this list. He's played more games. Yeah, definitely. 234 games. He's played more games than any other striker since 2000.
We just couldn't rely on him, could we? I think he suffers a little bit because athletically, if you could design a footballer's physique, it's Sam Gallagher. And because he costs a reported £5 million. Those two things definitely weigh heavy on him. But the amount of time he was here, he didn't play enough. And we couldn't rely on him to be on the pitch or when he was on the pitch to do what we needed him to do. Lovely
But it cost £104,000 per goal.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a lot of money.
Per goal. £70,000 per goal involvement.
Yeah.
So those are the stats. Well, we'll break that down in another video. If you were to look at the spreadsheet that I've created, you would definitely section me for going through that stuff. So other ones to go. Jake Garrett's gone out on loan. Quick one, good move.
Yeah, I think he needs minutes. He's stagnating, wasn't he? I think he needs to go and play a full season.
Agreed. Obviously, John Flex left. He's obviously not going to be coming back. Pat Gamble's out on loan, very similar to the Jack Garrett situation. We've had O'Riordan go today. There's a few other youngsters go today. I think we're all agreed that they just need some first team minutes. They're not going to get enough here to develop. I think there was a few people a bit upset about O'Riordan. But I think we're probably going to be looking in at a centre-back loan coming in. So it's a case of shifting people around.
He said again, hasn't he? He wants cover at the full-backs, and I think one must be coming in. I mean, O'Riordan, to put people's minds at rest, O'Riordan is so highly rated by the club. But he's not going to develop sat on the bench, is he?
No, and another person that was sat on the bench was obviously Volstead. We kept the receipt and we got our money back for him.
Getting your money back for Volstead and getting your money back for Telalovic and checking out is a good result, isn't it, really?
And Telalovic was going to be the other one I mentioned, yes. So Gallagher, Volstead and Telalovic are the three that leave on a permanent, with Garrett, Campbell and O'Riordan being the first teamers that have all gone out on loan. I don't think there's any others on loan, is there?
Not first teamers, no. We've got Harrison Wood and people like that have gone, haven't they?
Yeah,
and then Georgie Gent is probably the one worth mentioning. That was
Georgie Gent.
But again, I think it was Elliot Jackson that tweeted that when he spoke to him, Gent basically said, I've got to say it's first team football, I want to play it. You would imagine Rovers have got a heavy sell on, if not even a buyback with him. So I'm fine with that. They've had a look at him in pre-season. They've decided he wasn't going to play. I think these things happen. And I'm looking at those the sales that we've made. I know it's massively early days for Rohashi and for Gay, but I would swap them to, I'm happy with the swap for Gallagher and Telalovic. Volstead needs replacing, not necessarily because it's Volstead. I think we need to replace him with a first-team goalkeeper.
Yeah.
But we hoped Volstead was a first-team goalkeeper. O'Riordan's gone out, Danny Barth come in. Great stuff. Garrett's gone out and Travis has come back in for now. but we were too light in midfield. So on that basis, we are better than we were at the end of last season, just.
And that was going to be my question to you. Do you feel like we are better? I know that I do, mainly because of the Gallagher situation and seeing Gay Ohashi for the first time. Goalkeeper-wise, we're definitely going to get one. Where we get one from is another thing. Obviously, one decided he didn't want to live in sunny Blackburn. He wanted to go to the slums of Marseille. So that's up to him. If he didn't want to play EFL first-team football, shocking behaviour from the lads. But it's a position we're definitely going to improve on, isn't it?
I wouldn't be surprised to see us bring 2 keepers in. I don't think Ainsley Pears would be happy sat on the bench. And I think we will look to try and bring the first-team goalkeeper in. So I still wouldn't be surprised if we then bring an experienced keeper in at the end of the
I don't think we're going to be bringing in a keeper that is going to be that elite where he's going to be literally signing and starting the next game. So I can see us getting a keeper in that sits behind Pears for a couple of games and then comes in, and Pears probably goes in January, and then we get another second keeper in January. That was my gut feeling, but I could see us going and getting to. I mean, we can improve everywhere, to be honest. But again, it's that money situation, isn't it? So those are the.
I still think there'll be some big sales yet. I wouldn't be surprised if Buckley, Sigurdsson, maybe even Dolan went yet.
That brings us to the mailbag. So we've got the new email address, theblackburnend@gmail.com. Obviously, follow us on socials. We will be putting out the tweet each week for you to reply your questions to. And we have the first one here, which was John Lee. What should or could have done better to stop the 2 goals we conceded, talking from the corners? Now, we struggled with set pieces last year, going forward and at the back. Do you just feel like it was losing Gay and that tall figure?
Yeah, but equally, I was disappointed with both of them. I think, was it Travis potentially? I think Vyman lost his man at one point. I don't think Pears could have done anything about the headers, probably in terms of a finished perspective. Would you have liked to see him come for those, Mike?
No. I think he comes, he's not getting them, and he causes himself a situation. So I think that Pears played conservatively, but not terribly. So I won't blame him there. I think that Derby are just very good at set pieces. I think I'm going to judge us after the next 2 games on this one. So the next question.
I think it will be better from them. This is Derby are, for people that don't know, Derby scored a ridiculous amount of set pieces last season. But I think you cannot get worse or not improve from set pieces when you've got Gay, you've got Danny Barth, you've got McFadden, you've got Hyam, Carter. We have to be better than we needed to be.
Yeah, I'm not going to panic after one game. I know it was a couple of corners. I'm not going to panic just yet. We definitely need to improve at that. I think we need to improve going forward as well with our corners. Set pieces, we've always said, is a big thing. But yeah, it's always going to be a big thing until we start spending some serious money on bigger players, because I've said all along our players are far too small. So Lestin Page asks, and this is further to the transfer conversation, as much as it pains me, do you think it's time for Buckley to move on? Thought Travis was great Friday night along with Tronstad. Buckley needs more regular game time. I can't see him getting it in unless we get injuries. So I know that you're a fan of Buckley. There was quite a few times last season he came on, and after he came back off his loan from Sheffield Wednesday, and he did some lovely turns on the ball, had some nice vision, but the lad just can't keep a first team position, can he? Is it time to just say to him, for the good of your career, off you go?
It could well be. I'd be interested if he could play the role Tronstad played, because he's an intelligent footballer. He reads the game really well. I just think it's probably loyalty to him, but I think there's still a player in there that would get in our first team. The way that John Buckley reads you forget how good he was at intercepting. The way he reads the game and his care he can take with the ball. I think it's a real travesty if we can't get John Buckley to a level where he gets in our team. I think the damage was done before Eustace arrived, but it's a bit of a failure from the club if we can't get a player like John Buckley progressing. If he goes backwards with us, there's something gone wrong. And I think it's gone wrong before Eustace has arrived. But, yeah, I think that you should be getting more out of him.
Yeah, it's a waste of a talent. I think his confidence was completely shot under JDT, as we've discussed on previous pods. It was definitely a situation that was untenable for him. Same with Travis. They both went out on loan when we needed players in for depth, and we're letting them go. There's something not right with Buckley. It could be that he needs to do a Travis and go out on loan, but actually play. Obviously, he didn't play at Sheffield Wednesday, so maybe a loan could help him for a few months. Travis went to a team that was really performing top end, and Travis has a character that's a lot stronger. I mean, I know that's really harsh, a character assassination of Buckley, but we knew that Buckley's confidence was down. I've never seen Travis have confidence issues. I don't think he ever will. But Buckley obviously had confidence issues, and he either needs to go out on a really good loan for a good year to a League One club and play and be the main man, and then come back. But I just can't see it happening. I think the only way is that he goes, and if he does go, we're not going to get much money for him. From a selfish point of view, I'd like the depth at the club, but from a manager point of view, I think to manage the man, he probably does need to move on now. I just don't want to see it happen. I wouldn't be adverse to him going out for a 6-month loan,
Yeah, the fact Eustace has come out and said he thinks we're light in midfield tells us all we need to know. In that case, you're right, Buckley. I'd still be upset if it was a permanent move. I think, yeah, you're right. Go and get some football. Go and play. Get some just one last shot at it. Send him somewhere where he's going to Kilmarnock, somewhere like that in Scotland. Just shove him up there where you're going to get loads of space and time and go do something. Yeah, good shout.
So, Cumbria 77, I know it's very early days, but which of this summer signings do you think will have the greatest impact potentially, and which one excites you the most? So, obviously, we haven't had many summer signings. For me, I think the one that I think will have the greatest impact is probably Gay, but the one that excites me is Ohashi. Now, I'm going to quantify that by just saying that I think Gay's built for the EFL a lot more, and I think with his confidence in himself, I think he's really going to push himself and get amongst it, as they say, and do more. Ohashi, I think, excites me. After seeing little touches and the finish, I think he's going to be the exciting one. But Mark, what's your opinion?
I don't think we'll necessarily see it as much, the impact, but I think the 3 experienced lads that we brought in will have a massive impact, because I think we were lacking that in the dressing room. I think we were lacking that, the way Danny Bath came onto the pitch and they scored and there was 10 minutes left and the game just died a death. But last season, that would have become 4-3 and really squeaky bum time. And the game died a death. And Rovers never do that. The game never dies a death with us unless it's us attacking. So I think they'll have a big impact. I think Andy Vyman, to answer that question directly, will have the biggest impact this season. I think he'll make a big difference. Just in moments. I think there'll be moments. Actually does excite me. But I'm going to go Gay, just because I don't think we're going to know what we're going to get every week from him. And that'll be bloody frustrating, but it's going to be one hell of a ride with him. You can just feel it, can't you?
I think it will be. But Tim Dio has asked who the best free kick taker at the club is. Since Mulgrew, I think we've struggled to find a specialist in front of goal. If you had to pick someone to step up in the 90th minute versus Burnley, 20 yards out in the centre of goal, who would you pick? When I saw this from Tim, I had no idea. I was thinking, Vyman is meant to be quite good at set pieces, isn't he? But I'm not 100%. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I think it's been a struggle quite a lot. We've talked about set pieces. I mean, being able to take a corner last year, Jesus, I could have taken a better corner than most of them. I mean, you said yourself, if you couldn't beat the first man, you'd hang your head in shame, and these are professional footballers. I genuinely don't know who I'd have taken a free kick. I mean, I've seen JRC take them. I've seen Dolan take them. I'm going to probably say Hedges, and I don't know why. I've just got an instinct to say Hedges because I'm a massive fan.
Yeah, he came to my mind. I mean, based on the fact of how good his finishing is, I think I'm going to go Smodics, but for no reason other than the fact that we don't have a set-piece taker. I mean, Pickering came with a massive reputation for being a set-piece specialist. I've not really seen it. Apparently Vyman can really deliver a ball, though, which is something we're missing. So that's what we need, because Gay is going to be a massive threat, isn't he, in the air, and we've got to take advantage of that.
Yeah, definitely. And we have one last question in the mailbag from Nordy Rover. Quick answer from you, Mark. Would you rather have 2 left feet or 2 left hands?
I don't play football anymore, really, so I'll go 2 left feet now. It would have been 2 left hands, though.
I'm going to go with 2 left feet as well. I've always been able to, luckily, use my left foot as well as my right, so I'm going to go with that, but I'm not sure what my left hand can do, and we'll just leave that one there before anyone talks about innuendos. So that's the mailbag. Thanks, everyone, for the questions that have come in. When we put the tweet out, make sure you share, and we get as many questions as we can. We'll pick out the best ones. You can comment down below, or you can email us at theblackburnend@gmail.com. But I'm going to pass it to Mark now for the quiz answer and to talk about our retro rover.
So, yes. So, just go through it again. So there were 2 of me at the same time, but now there's only 1. I could only stay for a little while as I was doing the devil. So there were 2 of me at the same time. There was 2 answers to this, really. There was 2 Juves at the same time, but there's 2 Senegalese players. Hence, there's now only 1. Sir Maktar Gueye. I could only stay for a little while. He was on loan. I was too much of a devil. Man United reference there. It was, of course, Mame Baram Diouf. Talk to me, Mike. Memories. Mame Baram Diouf.
Well, I remember being a bit disappointed with him initially, and then he's one of those that became a little bit of a cult hero again, didn't he? I mean, he got his goals. He did get his goals in the end.
He got the hat trick. I think it was in the cup, wasn't it? He how many goals do you think he got, Mike, in 26 Rovers games?
Oh, I'm going to say he got 5.
3.
So he just got the hat-trick goals?
So, yeah, just the 3 in the League Cup against Norwich. I
remember being really disappointed with him, and then come the end, I remember not being too bad. Did he get some? Did he start getting some assists?
He did. I've given him a bit of bad rep there, to be fair. He scored 3 league goals, Wikipedia's calling it. So, on the 6th of August, this is Wikipedia, on 6th of August 2010, just Venky's time, Diouf signed for Rovers on a season-long loan, handed a number 41 shirt. I remember him having his socks around his ankles, and I thought, this guy can't play for Rovers doing that. He made an immediate impact for Rovers, scoring within 15 minutes. Came on as a substitute for Mike. A really good striker.
Oh, it's Jason Roberts, someone like that.
No, in a pre-season friendly against Hearts, it was Nick Blackman. On the 24th of August, he scored a hat-trick in his debut in the League Cup. And then he scored his first league goal 4 days later against when we lost to Arsenal. He got an assist for alleged Juve. But then his loan, he made 29 appearances, 6 goals in all competitions, 3 in the league. But yeah, I liked him though. He was a very unpredictable character, wasn't he? He was. I remember when Man United signed him, and he came from, was it Mulder? And he was supposed to be setting the world on fire, and then we got him on loan as quite a young child, quite a young kid. But he just never ever did it, did he? He went to Stoke, I'm looking here, 24 goals, 144 games, probably, decent. Hanover, but it never quite became.
He never kicked on, did he?
Consistent as somebody wanted. Yeah. He scored 1 goal for Man United, but he scored his debut for Man United as well, actually. Let's have a look here.
The only striker I ever remember for Man United scoring on the debut was Makeda against Villa.
Makeda,
it's always
and Rooney's hat trick in the
Fenerbahce.
He became registered, made his debut 2 days later, scores level at 1-1, came off the bench but he was unable to. Sorry, he made his home debut against the Dingles. Scored his first goal against Burnley. Scored. His only goal for United.
Lovely.
There we go.
He's a legend. Legend of the game.
I told you he was a good one. But yeah, our Senegalese. The point of it was our Senegalese forwards. We've had 3. We've had Mohamed Abraham Diouf, El Hadj Diouf, who I wasn't a fan of. I know people say that these shithouses, that when they come to your club, you love them, and when they don't, you hate them. I liked Robbie Savage when he was at Rovers. I didn't like Diouf. He was too far for me. But Mohamed Abraham Diouf I quite liked. But I'm hoping that Maktar Gueye is the most successful of our 3 Senegalese forwards.
I hope so too, because we're going to need him this year. We're going to need all the players. We're going to need the fans pushing forward. I'm not expecting a hugely difficult season like last year where it's going down to the last day, but I'm going to touch wood on that. But yeah, we've got lots to discuss. This has been an absolute bumper pod. I've enjoyed it. It's great to be back. There we go. Season 2 of the pod is up and running. Rovers are out of the blocks. Will it continue? Let's hope, because that's all we do have is hope. Remember to share the podcast, retweet, message your mates, email your mom, whatever. Pass this pod on. Help us grow, because the more we grow, the better the content we can give you. Mark, always a pleasure.
Absolutely, Mike. It is so good to be back. And one thing I would say is, since I've been off, I've obviously started bits and bobs on this pod with you. I didn't quite realise. I know I don't still fully understand how the algorithms work, but I didn't quite realise how important it is that people subscribe. I thought it was just, it benefits me, it comes in my feed. No. What it then does is then people I might subscribe to The Rest is Football, it then adds it into the algorithm and says to people who like The Rest is Football, well, you might like the Blackburn End Pod. So at the very least, it might pop into somebody else's ideas and suggestions to them who might appreciate it. Worst case scenario, it pops into a Dingles feed and really annoys them. So just like, subscribe, stick your notifications on. If you don't want to listen to us then, don't listen to us. That's fine. But please, it will help. Give us some reviews, 5-star reviews, obviously. Talk about the wonderful Mike here and his no headset anymore, but it might be he's got his stats. You can't wait for his striker one. I cannot wait for that. So yeah, it's great to be back under a new name, but still same old us.
Yeah, and we read all the emails to the blackburnend@gmail.com, the comments on YouTube, the replies to our tweets. Thanks all for the support, and we'll see you next time.